Hello, hello, hello. Hi. Hi, how is everybody? I'm Mabh Savage and I'm one of the Moonbooks authors. I've written a couple of books on Celtic inspired paganism. The first one being this, which is A Modern Celt, which is primarily about looking for Celtic inspiration in modern spirituality. Sorry about the light changing. I don't know what's going on there because it's not actually changing here, so it must be an internet thing. And also Pagan Portals, Celtic Witchcraft, which is more of ideas and inspiration on how to find Celtic inspiration in your own path. Um, if you're here, do say hi. Oh, hi, Kay. I'll try and catch up with everybody as we go along. If anybody wants to ask any questions or leave any comments or just ask me, what are you talking about? Then please do. I'll try and field questions as and when they come up. But if I do miss anybody, just please wave at me. And I'll do my best to answer everybody's. So I'm going to keep glancing back and forth at my notes because I've made a few notes because I can't remember things these days anymore. My focus at the moment is on something I'm calling environmental kindness, which we talk about being environmentally friendly, but I think we need to go beyond being friendly. Friendly is like, hi, oh, that's nice. And I think we need to be actively kind and giving to the environment. Um, During the first sort of serious part of the recent lockdown here in the UK, I noticed that, and a lot of people have said this as well, that we could hear the birds singing a lot more. And apparently they weren't singing louder. It was just that we could hear more of a diverse song because all the bits that were hidden in the usual noise and bustle of human activity, because that had died down, we were able to hear more. I thought, isn't that amazing? It was such a reminder that humans are just one species, just one mammal on this incredibly, wonderfully diverse planet. However, as the only species that has developed technology and industry to the level that it negatively impacts the environment, as humans, we have this enormous responsibility to be custodians, I suppose, and guardians of nature. Um, I'm going to start off by reading a little excerpt from my first book, A Modern Celt, which touches on that a little bit. I'll just find it there. Here we go. So, being closer to the earth, how it works, how things grow, this helps us understand that we have a responsibility towards it. It's not ours, but we are a part of it. And because we take so much from it, we really have to give something back. I think some people find conflict between following a pagan path and being part of modern society. Many of us lay claim to a harmony with nature and the earth, then drive miles and miles to get to some gathering or other, pumping out pollutants and notching up that ever-present carbon footprint. I know very few people own any kind of pagan path that are truly self-sufficient or living 100% off the land without using any modern devices or techniques to help them in their daily lives. And there's no reason why they should be. Having a connection to your ancestors is not about becoming your ancestors. Having a connection to the world and nature is not necessarily about becoming a hermit. I think it's important to remember that everything really is about balance, using what you have when you have to, and ensuring that any bad behaviour is offset in some way. Many people I know drive miles to get to farms, fields, woods, and other venues for various pagan events. Yet most of those people are also deeply involved in the conservation of the area. And the promotion of living spaces for local wildlife, and the protection of natural woodland and hedgerows, and the prevention of the destruction of natural habitats for the creatures that already reside there. So there is no spurning of modern society and very little hypocrisy, just a genuine desire to better understand the natural world to become a part of it rather than just living off it, and perhaps get a glimpse of life as it is without the trample of busy human feet. So, what's everybody's thoughts on that? Do you think that as pagans we forge a closer connection to the earth? Do we have more responsibility towards it? Or maybe all humans have an equal responsibility, but pagans feel it more keenly? Or maybe they just take it more seriously? One of the ways nature takes me is the inspiration to write poetry, often about small and magical changes that a simple moment in nature can have, whether that's walking by the shore or on the coastline or in the woods. There's so many different ways that I can be out in nature and suddenly think this is just beautiful, and it does really take you, I think. I'm going to read you a couple of my poems that have been inspired by nature. I'm just pulling them up now. Here we go. Just to give you an idea of how that inspiration, how it can take it. I think art's amazing for being able to express obviously how you feel about something and how passionate you are about something, but it also helps you feel more connected to it as well. This one is called Fluting. Red flutes piping higher than even dog's ears can bear. Howling ensues, the bruises inside, eyes of wonder, thundering onwards and ever clambering, scrambling over scree, 3 times as many rocks tumbling down. Blue flutes whistle sharply, hark, the bird answers. Short, snappy snark sends stark reminders, silhouettes of smiles on sunlit nights. Green flutes calling low, blow softly, reeds gentle, bending, bowing deep at the riverbank of hope. The dragonfly spins dreamily, eggs forgotten in moonlit bliss. So that is just inspired by walking along the banks of a stream and seeing the birds and the insects just doing their thing, basically. Let's have a look. I've got another one here, this was just walking to the supermarket and spotting a hawk just silhouetted against a perfect half moon. Sharp wings tug at frigid air, thermals crippled by Kalak's touch. Though sky is her hue, delightful, deep blue, her breath makes the bird struggle for height, strive for flight, circles frustrated, almost black against the colourful morning. He scars the misty white face of the half moon, a cataract eye blinking behind cloud lids, tired of night, so drifting sleepily into day. Music in my ears as this tableau, hawk framed by half moon, is forever sealed by the kiss of blessed memory. If you like my poems, oh, thank you very much, Victoria. That's really nice. Anybody who likes my poems and always wants to support me, I do post a lot of poetry and some unique stuff that you can't read anywhere else over at Patreon. So, shameless self-plug alert, patreon.com/Mabh Savage, just as it's typed up here, MABHSAVAGE. For as little as $1 plus tax a month, you can get unique poetry and special little things sent to you. So please check it out. Thank you. I think that finding any way to appreciate nature, whether you're writing a poem or drawing a picture or keeping a journal or even just taking photographs on your phone, it's an extra way to connect to it, and it really increases that sense of urgency that we have to be kinder to the world around us. When you love something, you want to look after it, you want to keep it whole, you want to keep it safe. In my first book, I had this weird insistence that everybody needed to get outside as and when they could, and it kind of makes me cringe a little bit now looking back, because in some ways it's true, but it is a touch ableist, because at the time I didn't really take into account pagans or nature lovers who are perhaps not as able to get out as other people, who might be housebound, who might be stuck in towns and cities and actually have very few opportunities to actually explore woodlands and streams and the coast and so forth. Um, so while it is, wonderful to be able to get out into nature, I appreciate it's not always possible for everybody, but we can still create that connection to it. We can still have those moments of kindness. It's this line of thinking that's inspired a lot of the content of the book that I'm working on at the moment. I'm working on one of the practically pagan books, which is called An Alternative Guide to Planet-Friendly Living. And it primarily focuses on how, as a pagan, you can do your practice just a little bit more kindly to the earth, or to encourage you to, if you're already doing that, to encourage you to share those ideas, basically, and for us all to sort of come together as a community to really think about how pagans as a whole can have that surge of kindness to the environment, to make sure we're stepping gently on the planet and encourage others to do the same. I'm going to read you a slightly abridged version of one of the chapters from this upcoming book. This is a chapter on sacred space. And when I've read you the chapter, I'm going to show you some of my own little bits and bats that I use here as well. So I shall just get this chapter up here. Okay. So this is a chapter called Planet Friendly Sacred Space. I said, I know not every reader will have or use an altar or a shrine, hence me carefully titling this section Sacred Space, as I feel most pagans will have somewhere that they go to where they feel a little more connected to their chosen divinity. For me personally, some of my favourite sacred spaces are simply spots within nature where I go to and stand or sit quietly. Sometimes I might take a small candle, light it, hold it, then take it away with me again. Other times I'll take some nuts, as I know the squirrels and birds both appreciate them. I don't do this too regularly, as it's important for wild animals not to become reliant on humans feeding them. One such spot is a crossroads of oak and silver birch trees at a hilly spot of ancient woodland close to where I live. The energy I have felt rising up in that spot with zero intervention from me is quite breathtaking. Of course, not all sacred spaces are outdoors. For those who stay indoors for ritual, meditation, or even moots and gatherings, there are lots of ways to do this in an environmentally conscious way. Now, an indoor sacred space can be literally anywhere you choose, whether you choose to create an altar or a shrine, or designate a room for meditations or healings, or simply a space where you go to lose yourself in meditation or mindfulness. Your sacred space is uniquely yours and you choose what happens there. And my suggestions are just that, they're just suggestions. And I understand deeply that paganism is a wildly eclectic collections of faiths and paths. So obviously you just take what you need. Okay. Now the section on tools covers. I'm looking to the tools for pagans. That covers everything from athames to wands, bells, candles, scrying balls, pendulums, and there is this huge and growing trend on social media platforms like Instagram to share snaps of altars almost in a one-upmanship. Look at all the shiny things I have. Have a look at the hashtag witches of Instagram and you'll see what I mean. Don't get me wrong, there are some awesome posts in there as well, but the aesthetic and the need to draw followers in seems to run ahead of the potential consequences of the consumerist nature of some of those posts. Needless to say, while I appreciate anyone can share whatever they want online, I don't think ensuring you have the latest, shiniest accessories on your altar is particularly planet friendly. I would love to see a new trend emerge. How about hashtag upcycled altar or hashtag thrift witchery? Now, with that in mind, I thought I would have to walk the talk and show you a few of the little bits and bats of my own altar, which I've taken off with permission tonight. Um, and it's just a few bits and bobs. And some of these are found things, and some of these are made things. And again, this isn't about you know, being smug or oh look what I've done. And I don't think anybody should be like that really. But if you can make a difference, it's an amazing thing to do. And if you can have things on your altar that are kinder to the environment, even 1%, then that's, you know, if everybody does that, that's a massive difference. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a wand. Ooh, you can see that there. Now, this was made for me by my father, and it's made of rosewood, which came from the garden and was being pruned anyway. And it has here, and that's it there. And at the back's been left on there for texture. I'm not a huge wand user, to be honest. I will occasionally use one to mark out perhaps a sigil or a space, but it's such a beautiful thing and such a lovely gift and completely environmentally friendly, because obviously it would have just been composted. Absolutely. Do you know what? That's absolutely right, Brenda. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about intention. Absolutely. So yeah, so that's my first example of something that's eco-friendly, but perhaps very effective as well. What else have I got down here? Now these get picked up all the time. I have feathers. I'm sure there's plenty of you that have at some point or another been through a picking up feathers stage. I've got, this is a magpie tail feather. I don't know if, can you just see if I tilt it there? Can you see the green and the blue coming in the black? The light's a bit strange on this laptop. It comes and goes a bit, but hopefully you can see that there. It's ever so slightly scratchy there. I think this is possibly from, we have a pair of magpies that come into the garden. They are massive and they are lovely, and they come in and they taunt the cats, and sometimes unfortunately they don't get away fast enough. Now they've never been seriously harmed, but every now and then a tail feather gets grabbed. So I think this is possibly from one of those altercations. They're lovely, aren't they? There we go. And this one, this is a goose feather, and this is from a nearby reservoir overflow, where there's lots and lots of Canada and grey lag geese, and this practically fell in front of me at one point. And one of my old mentors had given me an oracle card of the goose, which was very important to me, and it was shortly after that that this suddenly appeared in front of me. So I was like, oh, thank you. So this has been on my altar for many years. So again, nothing, no, you know, nothing, no birds were hurt in the making of these altar decorations. Possibly the magpie's pride, but that wasn't my fault. So yeah, easy way. Obviously, feathers can represent air, feathers can represent cleansing, they can represent boundary cleansing, boundary marking, the specific birds that they came from and their correspondences. So there's lots and lots of uses for feathers. Let's have a look. What else have I got down here? I have got, so moving on from, we've sort of had, if we're going to go all alchemical, obviously we've gone earth, air, and for water, focus there. It's very similar to a scallop shell. I don't think it is a scallop. It's very similar. And this is just from the East Coast. And again, shells make such a gorgeous altar decoration. I have got a couple which were given to me. I've got one which is like an abalone shell. It's massive and huge. And again, it's not something I would have gone out and bought myself because of the sort of ethical ramifications of, you know, how did that get here and how much was, how, you know, what's the carbon footprint of that? But somebody, I think, had found it on their travels and then gave it to me. So that's on my downstairs altar, on my Hecate altar. which is separated out into earth, sea and sky, and that big shell sits there. This one is off my Morrigan altar, and I try and have things on the Morrigan altar that I either found myself or were given to me in particular circumstances. So yeah, I found this one just while traipsing around on the east coast, dipping my toes in the water. Just really simple, just a little shell, pop, stick it in the west. There you go. I also have, from a little bit further afield, massive pine cone. It's not an exaggeration to say it's nearly as big as my head. Not quite as big as my head. It's quite big. But this is actually from further afield, and this is when I was travelling around Tenerife with my now husband. And you know, somebody loves you when they pull up at the side of the road, disappear for 10 minutes, and then come back with that. Spotted it at the side of the road, like it, stopped the car, jumped out, ran back, came back, and there you go. I was like, oh, amazing. So yeah, I've had this for a few years now as well, and this has pride of place on my altar. Other bits and bats I've got. Does anybody else just keep every single jar that ever gets used? Is that just me? Obviously, reusing is even better than recycling. So if you're able to reuse things, it's brilliant. And I make a lot of things like jams and pickles and stuff, so I do keep jars. I keep way too many jars, but some of them get used for altar decorations like this, which is, I don't know if you can see in there, that is actually elder blossom, elderflowers from probably about 3 summers ago now, and they've just dried out naturally, and then I put them in here. They've been as part of symbolizing earth, and also been used in little rituals about skills when we've been showing gratitude for the skills that we have and celebrating those. And I came up with foraging because that's something that I absolutely love to do. So again, very, very easy jar with something in it that means something to you, that you found. Really, really simple, practically zero carbon footprint. I think I walked to get the elderflowers, and the jar had, I think the jar came from the food waste reduction place anyway. So again, there's lots and lots and lots of ways to have very eco-friendly bits on your altar. And finally, in very much the same vein, I've just started gathering, no, that's a few weeks ago, I gathered some plantains from the garden, ribwort plantain this is. Again, I don't know if you can see that there. These leaves have now dried out, and what I'll eventually do is I will grind them up and I will mix them with either some oil or something like Vaseline or that to make a skin salve. I'm not saying that works for everybody, but I happen to know it's good. It works for us for like soothing bits of dry skin and stuff. Plantain's very good for that. Disclaimer, obviously, if you're going to use complementary therapies, check with a medical professional first. But that's something that I study, is that is herbalism, and I've not had the time to do these yet, so these are just kept in the jar there. And that'll be a project to do when I've got a bit more time later. So let's has anybody else got any anything on their altar that's found objects or unusual items that have either been given, or they think, you know, ways to have an altar that's a little bit kinder to the environment? I'd love to know if anybody wants to share. Even if you're watching this later and not live, do leave comments, because I'm absolutely fascinated in finding out what others do as well. I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of those items. I love finding stuff for my altar. I don't really go out looking for them, if that makes sense, but if I see something and it's for my altar, I know about it straight away. I think I'm about to get invaded by a cat. I can see one sneaking up now. So if you hear a load of meowing, it's our noisy one. I guess one of the other things to take away from this talk today, I certainly don't believe that I'm like some paragon of green virtue or anything like that. I'm certainly not suggesting that it's possible for everybody to be. I use appliances and technology. We certainly couldn't be having this talk without that. I'm certainly not off grid. Yes, pine cones, acorns, and feathers. So yeah, absolutely. Oh, acorns! I love acorns. I've not usually been out and collected some by this time this year, but everything's been a bit hectic. So I think I've got one in a pocket somewhere. Yes, growth and strength, absolutely. I love the symbolism of the acorn for, tiny acorn, massive oak tree. The potential there is just amazing, isn't it? Thank you, Brenda. Um, yeah, certainly much more that I could do as an individual to make a difference. Um, thinking about like, the people that have been down in London, for example, over the past few weeks with XR, for example, volunteering and raising awareness about the current climate crisis. Oh, that's so lovely. Oh no, the candle got smashed. No. Oh well, I'm glad you were able to fix it. That's great. But I say, isn't it resourcefulness, being able to fix things, knowing that you've got that skill set to be able to fix and reuse, and that's wonderful. Oh, that's really nice, is that, Kay? Oh, I love that. Yeah, basically there is a climate crisis on, and it is wonderful to see so many folks from so many faiths as well and walks of life coming together to say, enough's enough, and holding the people who actually could make a big difference to account. So, absolute power to anybody who's able to raise awareness of any kind, of the real issues that are going on in the world and the real impact that corporate and governmental decisions do have on the environment. And as individuals, we might only each be able to make a really little difference, but as we know, lots of small stones can start an avalanche. So my hope basically is that by encouraging folks to practice their spirituality or their pagan path in an unconsciously kind to the environment way, that'll spill over into everyday life, and that will help everybody else out along the way as well. So really, I kind of covered everything I wanted to talk about today. I mean, has anybody got any more questions about any of the points I've brought up today at all? Have I missed anybody at all either? Has any comments popped up that what would I recommend for eco-friendly offerings? Well, that's a really good question, is that? And it does depend on who you're making offerings to and where you're doing it as well. For example, in the home, I will absolutely offer. I will offer alcohol to the Morrigan because, in my experience, she likes it, particularly whiskey. But I certainly wouldn't go out and pour whiskey on the roots of a tree, for example. That would be not very nice at all. So I think it does depend where you are. Anything that's organic, I think, is the way to go. Anything that can be composted or replanted. I sometimes use garlic on my Hecate altar, and there's one or two things that happens. It either dries up, and when I refresh the altar, it goes into the compost, or it starts sprouting, in which case, with permission, I plant it. And there's always something to be gained from that then. It's not just going into landfill or being destroyed. And I think that creates an energetic bond as well, because you've given the offering in the first place, which shows your reverence for your chosen deity or spirit, or even your sacred space, whatever it is that you're giving that offering to. But when you then take that offering and you transform it into something else that is good for the planet, good for the earth, I think you're creating a cycle of kindness and reciprocity. And I think I think it can really, really increase the bonds that you have with your spiritual connections, your deities, your gods, goddesses, whatever it is that you personally connect to. I think having that little commitment to be kinder with your offerings and to do those things like composting or burying plant items. If you're out and about, bird seeds, nuts, not loads. Like I said before, you shouldn't always be feeding. For example, you shouldn't go into the woods and always feed a specific group of squirrels because they'll come to rely on you. But if you're only there once every so often, then of course it's absolutely fine. Water. I go to a local stream and I gather water from there sometimes to use on altars, which it's only a tiny impact, this, but the less tap water you use, the less energy is used, because it uses quite a lot of energy to produce tap water and quite a lot of chemicals flowing through there, and then the sewage system and then the water cleaning at the end of it. So there is, again, anything that you can do that lowers the use of energy and lowers your carbon footprint makes a big difference. But yeah, gosh, I could probably do a whole chapter on that, actually. Eco-friendly offerings. Yeah, that's a really good question, is that? Thank you. Honey, alcohol, yep. Apple and cores, yeah, absolutely. Biscuits, sun or moon water, yep. Pomegranates, I love pomegranates. Let me think of Persephone, lovely, very, very nice. Yeah, I like that. Anything else then? Please do wave if I've missed anybody's comments or questions. You've some lovely comments and questions on here today. It's been really good, actually. If you have enjoyed the talk today, by all means, do find me on Facebook. Facebook. That's another thing. Facebook.com/Mabh Savage, and on all other social media platforms, I'm usually at Maverick, MABHERICK. That's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's Tumblr. I tend to stick to the same one, and my website is mabhsavage.com. I am always happy to chat about nature and the environment, so do hit me up if you think of a question afterwards and you want to give me a shout. That's absolutely fine. Just find me through my website or on Facebook. Okay. Right, well, if there are no more questions today, then I think we should probably wrap that up for the evening. I just want to thank everybody for coming and joining in. What an amazing experience. And if you are watching this video later, thanks for popping by and seeing what I had to talk about. It's been absolutely wonderful. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a really great rest of the day, okay? Take care now. Bye.